Welcome to Deity Empires with me, Time and Tactics. This is an excellent Fantasy 4X game that was released a few months ago. We're up to version 1.1.55 right now. Well, that's the beta anyway. If you want to play this version, go ahead and turn that on in Steam if you're playing on Steam. And, let's just get into the game. I am going to make this a mini tutorial. I'll show you what I know. I'm not an expert, but I'll show you different things that I have realized while playing the game. So let's go ahead and start a new game. First up, we have to pick our deity on the left-hand side and our race. In my case, I'm going to pick the Dianic, the good side. We do have options between good, neutral, and evil. And there's a couple of each, 3 of each, I think. Maybe only 2. No, 2 neutral. Anyway, the deity itself, that is the character that you control, or how should I put it? When the game starts, you may not be you might be in an ethereal form, meaning you're not actually on the map itself, but you can help out by casting spells. And you have certain abilities. These are the ones on the left-hand side. When you start to get, I think it's 30 points to play with. And I've selected a few here, as you can see. And I have 0 points available. If you look on the right-hand side, these are the spellbooks that our deity has access to. And as you can see, I have made it slightly harder for myself here by not picking any spellbook. They're not free, but it's usually better to pick a spellbook, easier, if you like, because then you get a start in that category of magic, if you like. In my case, I'm going to have to go out there and find a spellbook in a dungeon somewhere out there. Once I find one, I can get started. I can start proceeding down the path, one of these areas of magic. And then on top of that, we have the Highman. That is our race. We can pick more than that. Each deity has access to 3. So we have 3 here. Highman, Mountain Dwarf, or Wood Elf. I'm picking Highman. We'll see what that means in the game. So what have I picked for our deity? What abilities do we have? Well, here's one, Mediator. That will reduce our casting cost for meditation by 15%, and we get an additional 50% meditation. And when we do raise our meditation by 1 point, there's another 15% chance we'll gain another point. What does that mean? Well, I'll show you in the game later on, but it has to do with magic, obviously. Spellcaster is another one that I picked. Reduce spellcasting cost by 10%. Does not apply to inherent spells. So what are those? Well, inherent spells are spells outside of these spellbooks. You get a handful of spells you have access to, and those we don't get a bonus to here at Spellcaster. So even though I don't have a spellbook, I can still use them. And we'll be using that in the game for sure. We also have 2 of these rich here. We get more starting gold, and I think that's going to be helpful because units are pretty expensive, and, well, that's one of the ways you spend gold, by the way. But also improvements. When you're building a road, when you're building a lumber camp, you spend gold. And the more advanced it is, the more money it costs. So I want to make sure I have enough there. We are also going to be famous, and that will give us an additional 25 fame. Fame is important to attract mercenaries, and we gain an additional 50% fame from battles, so that's pretty good. And then we have Inspiring, the final one. We get 1 extra starting unit, and that's going to be helpful. As we are going to be attacking these, we're going to try to clean out the countryside from different layers of enemies. And not having magic might be a problem. So having an extra starting unit, I think, is going to be helpful. And whenever units gain morale is something that helps you fight better, they have a 50% chance to gain 1 extra free morale. So that's pretty good. Okay, and that would take care of it. We're down to 0 points. Let's go over to the options screen here. As you can see, we're going to have 6 opponents. So that's not including us. You can see that here. It's going to be completely random. I'm not going to know what the deity it is, what race it is, and what personality. You can see here, they can be a conqueror, they can be growth, expansionist, egotistical, balanced, strategist, or random. We're going to go with random, and we'll see what that actually means. As far as the game options go, well, we have victory condition population. So if we have 60%, I guess? Yeah, 60% is what we need to do to win the game. Game speed is going to be normal. And I bumped it up to very hard difficulty for the AI. The lowest is very easy. It goes all the way up to beyond impossible. Don't think I'm ready for that, but we'll go for very hard. We'll see how that goes. Max AI army size is 8, and our army size 8 as well. That means in each stack, we can have a total of 8 units. And I think that's a good thing to keep it at 8, because from what I understand, if you fiddle with that, if you mess around with that number and increase it, let's say, let's go for 15, 16, so I have more units in my stack, well, the behavior for the AI kind of changes from what I understand, so I don't want to mess with that just yet. City tile range is 2. You can modify that as well. So you can have, let's say you put your city in a hex. For us, that means we're going to have 2 hexes out. It's going to be areas that we control for that city. We can put workers there. We can make that a lot larger. As you can see here, we can make it, 8? But let's stay with 2. Traversing walls require war. So if we have a wall on the map and we control it, I think that means if it's inside our city limit, you can't go across that wall unless you're at war or allied with us here. We can have a limited number of cities, and they can too. Layer density and layer respawn rate and layer difficulty, that's default. So any layer on the map, you're going to see them in a second, but they're going to be default. And I think that's really all we're going to do. Oh, I did bump up the bonus resource frequency from 75 to 100. So we're going to see more of the bonus resources, not just for us, for anybody. Hopefully that will help us make it a little bit more interesting, I think. All right, let's go to the map now. So here we are on the map screen, and it's it's very advanced here. We have more than these options available to control the map, and I'll show that in a second. But I've picked here the default map size, 60 by 40. I think there's going to be a good amount of time for the game. We can have few continents. You can have a different number. We can have many islands and many small islands. And that means, since I selected Allow Overlap, we're going to get a map that's kind of connected. I'll show you that here. If you click here, Preview, that's what the map generator came up with. We can change it if we want to. Here's another one. It's kind of interesting, actually, because it's kind of a snake-like shape. But what if you don't like it? It's not perfect. Well, there's a hidden configuration right here on the screen. If you scroll the mouse wheel, you're going to see here that we are changing the number or the amount of grassland, the green stuff here. So I can fill that in a little bit more maybe. And then if you right-click, you will cycle over to number of hills. And if you increase that a little bit, maybe a little bit more, maybe something like that. And then click again, right-click again. And you can see now we're going to get more mountains. I'm only going to have mountains down here. I don't know if I like that. I can't actually select where I'm going to have the mountains, but I can increase it here. Okay, there's a mountain. I kind of want to have mountains spread out a little bit. So let's go ahead and left-click and select a different map. Okay, here's one. That's a lot of mountains. A little bit too many, right? Let's go ahead and scale back on that a little bit. So something like that. And maybe also scale back on the number of hills. We don't need that many, do we? Maybe something like that. Let me go down for the mountains again, maybe a little bit more. There. Remember, we're going to have six AIs. Now, if you see here, we have 2 different continents, and they're very snake-like. I think there's not quite enough grassland, is there? Let's go ahead and see if we can maybe expand that. Maybe we can bridge this gap here. There. I wonder, there we go. Now, it's all kind of connected, and I think that's going to help the AI a little bit. I think the AI is not as good as normally is the case with any kind of 4X game if you have a lot of water on the map, right? So we're going to have a lot of water, but it's going to be connected, so they don't have to rely on traveling by boat. It's certainly a possibility, but I don't think they have to. Does it look good? I think it looks pretty good. Remember, we're going to have 6 AIs plus ourselves, so we should have, I think we should have okay room to grow here, and that's going to be mountains a little bit everywhere, right? And I think that's all I want to do. I think we should jump ahead. Oh, by the way, here's the seed. If you want to pick that up, I don't know if you can actually, if you do the seed, you're not going to get the exact same map because I'm also modifying, things here, and that doesn't show up in the seed. So it's kind of like the base value. Let's go ahead and take a look at the starting position we have for our area. Important messages: turn 0, magic resource none, casting spell none, and we have completed basic government. Up next, production research. Well, we're going to change that. But let's go ahead and exit out of here and take a look and see where we are. So first of all, what you're looking at here obviously is a map of the world. So we have now in that world that we generated, and we're in one of the grassland areas right here. We can see a forest down here, obviously. There's more trees here than up there. And down here, It's a jungle. There's some hills up here. Don't see any mountains. There are some special resources here that we can see. 3 of them. And there's one over here in the ocean as well. And there are 2 other things here. An outdoor lair and a dungeon lair over there. So that's what our map tells us. As we move our units, we're going to see more of the map, obviously. And by the way, the units in the center here, they're right up here. So one of them is on the map, and then the other ones are actually in the stack. And you can have 8 in a stack. So if you have more than 8, you can actually get into the same hex. If you were to put a 9th unit in there, it wouldn't go into that stack. What do we have then? Well, we have 4 of our military units. You can see that here. We'll look at that in a second. We have 1 engineer and then 1 settler. So that's something we're going to take a look at. If you look on the left side, you can see the most common information that you have on the map here. Gold, mana, meditation, battle mana, and then how we're doing in the world as far as word population. Don't know anything yet, so don't have much information there. At the top, we have a couple things we can do and a couple things basically we can look at. To the left here, we have, by the way, these values right here on the left-hand side, they're also available down here. And by the way, in the game, make sure you look at this section down here. It's on a variety of screens. There's like you can scroll through different pages here. So we have page 1 and page 2. We'll look at them in a second. Anyway, cast spell. That's the first tab over here at the top of the screen. If we select that, these are, what we're looking right at now, is the inherent spells that we can use. So everybody can use these spells here. Or actually, what we're looking at here, this tab that's selected, means all spells. Here are the inherent spells. For us, that's the same thing because we don't have any spell books. We don't have anything else. So anybody can use these. I'm not going to go through all of them here, but they're more like big picture spells that you can do. One of them is increased meditation skill. And I'll tell you, should I tell you that now, how that works? Well, I'll tell you in a minute how that works. But one interesting one here is call lesser hero. So basically what that means is that when the game starts, we don't have any heroes. Heroes are special units that can they're much better than regular units. And you want to get one soon. And a way to get one, you can get it through just them showing up at your cities, or you can call for one, casting a spell, but it will cost you 300 mana. And the mana is over here, as you can see. We have 10 right now. We're making 10 per turn. That's the basic value. So it would take a long time to get that right. We can improve that, though, but let's go ahead and select it for now. So we have that selected. So we have 0 and so far added towards the 300. And we'll exit out of that. So we've done that. We want to make sure we always have something going on for casting a spell. Magic Research, yeah. That's where we're going to be lacking when we start out because we don't have any special spell books. Nature, all that stuff. Cold, nothing. So we're going to have to find a spell book before we can do any research at all. Civic Research, on the other hand, anybody can do. And don't be intimidated here. It's a pretty big tree of things that you can do. But I think it's pretty well organized into different categories. Right now, we have completed this one here. Basic Government allows fundamental advances in civic technology. We have that, so we don't have to worry about that. So anything here that's available has a white line to it. And by the way, if it's too bright, you can go or if it's too dark, use the up arrow and down arrow to make it a little bit, stand out here, right? I like it fairly bright because I can see anyway what I've done. And by the way, anything outlined in yellow with these spokes on there, that means that it's already done. We've done this here. And in general, the civics research is pretty darn good. You can leave it to the computer to decide what you should pick. It's going to just pick in random order here. You can see here we have this one selected right now, 1, and then that's number 3. So we have a number 2 somewhere. This one over here is 2, but that's random. We don't want that. We want to select it. But let's come back to that in a minute once we have taken a look at more of the things around the map. And then the following 3 tabs here really are just an overview of what you have. And by the way, here we go. We have a little arrow down here. We can see a lot of things here. So once you have a lot of cities, take a look at that. Units. So we have our units here. And you can see, by the way, remember here, we have our 6 units over here. Well, there is another unit, and that is Dianic, our deity, and she's dead. Well, she's ethereal. She is alive, but can't really take a physical form. If she does take physical form, she'll be very good. But if she does, we won't have access to these spells anymore here. We can only cast spells that we have access to from our individual units that they also have their own spells, right? So that's something you want to keep in mind. And it takes a bit to call them in here into the game. When we start the game, you can select if you want to have your hero ethereal, which we have it now, or not. You want to have it in physical form. Anyway, that is our units. Items, we can have 10 right now. And that is special items that we can equip. Our units can equip, and that's really actually quite helpful. And then the final tab is our deities. Well, right now, we only know of our own, Dianic. And so when the other 6 show up, they're going to show up down here. And there's quite a bit of information here. First of all, we have our abilities on the right. That's the same ones we picked on the initial screen. And then we have 5 pages here. You can see that we can scroll through. So we can see we are good, we are human, no gems. We have no items, so you can see everything here. We'll take a look at that in a little bit later, I think. There's a lot of information here. Maybe when we get to the next, when we find out where the first AI is that we meet. Okay, so let's go over now to the right-hand side. These buttons here allow you to cycle through units to the 2 arrows. So we can go from this unit to, well, we don't have any other units, so this is the only one, right? But if we had another one, we could cycle to that, or cycle the other direction. If you select these 4 arrows, that means center the map. So if you happen to scroll away, far away, we center right there. So that's pretty good. And then we can also end a turn. Don't want to do that yet, but that's something you can do. And if you want to end a turn without clicking, you can press the letter E as well. So that works also. These will, I'll show you that later. And then down below, we have kind of basic information about the game. How are things going right now? Here we can see we have gold, 5,972. And by the way, the game really enjoys or likes to use the right mouse click. So if I right mouse click here, I get more information. But it's not so useful the very first turn. So we'll come back here maybe future turns and take a look at it. So we have our mana, the meditation, battle mana, casting, we're casting a spell, lesser hero, not doing any magic research, plus 20 over here is how much we make every turn. Civic Research, production, research plus 20, but I'll tell you all about this in a minute. Souls consumed, soul gems, heroes alive, 0 out of 1. Second page, more stats there. And there's even more stats. Down here, turn number 0, there are 24 pages. And it will show you a lot of different information here. Nothing yet. It's going to tell you a lot more once the game starts. So let's not worry too much about that yet. And then at the very bottom of the screen here, you can see these lines here. It's like a hamburger menu, on the phone. You can then, if you look at the bottom, units and spells. Every single unit in the game is here. And by the way, we have selected units here. Page 1 out of 6. You can go to the next page. Yeah, there's a lot of information here. Or you can go to spells. In the different categories, they're sorted by category here. Alteration and so forth. So we don't have access to these, but these are the ones we want to get eventually. Page 2, you can get more detailed stats about them. So we're going to have a definite disadvantage. We'll see how that goes in the game. By the way, I may not win this game. In fact, I probably won't win this game. I might be eliminated very quickly, but hopefully it's going to be fun anyway, right? That's the most important thing. And I think that's pretty much all we want to do. Oh, there is one more thing. The question mark over here gives you the manual. Help manual. It's not complete yet, but there is definitely good information here. I don't know everything here, but I would recommend reading that. That's going to be helpful. Okay, back to the map. So here we are. We are in grassland. Well, as you can imagine, grassland is good for growing. It means we're going to be increasing our population pretty quick. So that's a pretty good start, right? Now, these special resources, we want to take a look at them because they are pretty good. We have 3 of them here. Let's take a look at it. And remember what I said about right-clicking? That's how you get more information. If I am to right-click on a hex, like this one, we can get some basic information here. This is a grassland. It's hex 914. Remember, we made the map 60 by 40. Food, we get 1,000 food because of the terrain, the grassland, and that's about it. They had no natural resources, nothing. Cost 1 move to go through. And you can do a lot of, you can improve the terrain quite a bit, and we'll certainly do that. But if you were to look here, also grassland, that has a special resource on it. So food, 1,000, like before. No natural resource, but we have a bonus resource here, rice. Oh, that's one of the best ones in the game, if I remember. So this particular resource needs a farm. If you have a farm, then you get 500 more food for every level of that farm. So if you have a level 10 farm, you get 5,000 more. And for every worker you have on there, you also get this amount of food. So if you have 3 workers, 5,000 times 3, 15,000. It's a huge number. So that is a huge improvement. Plus, I never even said anything about the farm itself. The farm itself, if I were to build a farm, it will create 5 extra food. Well, that's not that much, right, per level. So level 1 will give you, instead of 1,000, 1,005. But the bonus will be 25%. So if we have 1,000 plus 25%, that's another 250. That stacks on top of the rice. So whenever you look at a tile here, if you see a bonus like this, where there's an improvement that's required, that is the best scenario you can hope for long term. I think we have another one over here that's also good, but not... Nope, that is not exactly what I was looking for. No, we don't have one like that, but there is another type. Oh, here, we do have one here. Look at this one here. Now we're in the ocean, well, shallows. There's not that much food here, 300. No resources naturally. There are some shells here, but as you can see here, there's no requirement to build anything to take advantage of that. And that means that, while it's good, it's 6, you're not going to gain an additional number based on improvement of a certain kind of improvement, or based on, enhancing an improvement, like the farm, going from level 1 to 2 to 3. There's nothing you can do. I mean, in the game there is something called a fishnet, for instance, but the fishnet won't help you double this if you have a level 2 fishnet, if that makes sense, I hope anyway. The number of workers still do increase this, though. So if we have 2 workers here, it'll be 12 resources. So hopefully you see the benefit then of having a resource that requires a special building that you can then improve over time, and then double, triple, quadruple your amount. Now, normally, you can see here 6 shells. That's quite a bit. If you compare that to a deciduous forest, it's only 2. So the ones that don't require special improvement, they tend to have a lot of that one thing that you just get by default. So they're kind of good to go for right away. So if we had something else here, I can't think of now anything on the grassland that does not require an improvement. There's wheat, but it just requires an improvement. I can't remember now, but there are certain things you can do, but we don't have them here. So anyway, we have 3 of them here. Let's take a look and see if we can figure out what's the best spot for our city. We talked about the rice, right? And I know I've looked at all of them, all of the improvement bonus resources. There's wheat, but wheat only gives you 250 food per farm, so it's not as good. Rice is excellent. We're gonna be using this one. That's a good one. Let's look at the cow here. So that's cattle. Well, cow, I guess. 1,000 still for being grassland. We need a ranch, though. And a ranch is not a farm. There's a difference there. But you can see here, food 1,250 for each level of the ranch. So actually, it's a good example here to show the difference between rice and cattle. And on top of that, we get trade goods. And I'll tell you more about that once we get to the city, of 1.5. So wait a minute, that doesn't make any sense, right? 1,250 for each level of the ranch, and here it's only 500 for each level of the farm. What's the deal? Well, you have to keep in mind, and it's not obvious, but a ranch can only go to level 3, and a farm can go to level 10. So over time, you can see where that goes, right? You're going to make more with a farm on rice versus a ranch where you have cattle. But it tends to offset each other, and this stuff you get right away. I mean, you would get, if you just were to take this hex and build a ranch on here, you would get 1,000 plus 1,250 right away, plus whatever benefit the ranch itself gives, and that is what, 200 food plus 200 for level 1. That would be 400. By the way, it says current level 0 out of 1. You have to research higher levels. Anyway, so it would give quite a bit more. So when you get started, it might be good to go for the ones that give you immediate benefit, and then build on the other ones as time goes on. But we have one more, and that's in the hills over here. We have what? Hills gives you 400 food. That's something. Gives you 1 resource. We'll talk about that when we get to the city. And there's a red orb over here. Red orb is a huge... Oh, red orb. I wasn't even thinking about these. I haven't played that many games, so, But there's yellow, green, blue, and red, I believe. Yellow gives you 3. Green gives you 5. Blue gives you 8. And here we have red, 12. Mana 12, that may not seem as much, but remember, it's a mana well. So for every level of that mana well, we get 12 more. That's a huge number. Right now we're only making 10. So just from this one area, oh, that is enormous. We need to find a spell book so we can actually use this mana, because that's where we're going to be needing it. If you don't have any spells, we can't use it. Although, I mean, we're going to use it still to get that lesser hero to join us. And also the movement cost here is higher, 4, so it's very expensive to go through there. Okay, mana 12, that is very, very good. So what I'm thinking is this. Since we know that a city has a range of 2, so if we start the city here, we have a range of 2 out here, we need to get within range of all 3, and we can do that. There's no problem there. One small consideration would be that if we move away from this spot, move over here, we're going to lose access to the forest. And the forest, you can see, while it doesn't have very much food, it has quite a bit of resources there. So that's something, right? But we really can't pass up all this stuff here. This will let us grow quickly, getting more people in our city, taking advantage, getting more taxes, and taking advantage of all those people to use the land here, right? So I'm thinking moving east. It kind of makes sense, right? We have also jungle down here, not very good, so we may not going to consider that. Also, moving east will still obviously let us have a lot of food, but we can also then maybe get some of these resources over here. It's only 1, but it's still something. And if you put a mine on here, the mine itself, you can see that here. For every mine level you put on there, you get 0.2 more resources, but more importantly, you get 50% more. So let's say we have a level 1 mine over here, you would get another half point. So that's pretty good. I mean, imagine level 10. That'd be huge, right? So I think we should move over here. Should we move 1? No, 1 is not enough because we're not going to reach the cow. We move 2. But before we do that, why don't we go ahead and scout it out with our units over here. So our units, we have 4. Normally you get 3, we get 4 because I picked that when the game started. We have 4 of these Hyman Spearmen. I just right-clicked on the unit over here, by the way, to get to that. We'll talk about them maybe a little bit later, but these are pretty good. One thing they do have is that they have a ranged distraction, and if you couple that with their spear, the throwing spear, that means they can throw a spear, and anybody who is affected, who gets hit by that, or actually anybody they throw it at, is going to be affected, and they can't defend, basically, or hit back as well as they could otherwise. They're pretty good. I do like those spearmen. Something you want to keep in mind about them is that they cost 17 gold upkeep. Yeah, we have to make sure we get gold. We're negative 28 right now, as you can see. We get that from the cities, so we should be okay. They also take food, and they carry their own food with them. So right now, 1,000 food. So they get that at the beginning of the game. And as every turn goes by, they use up that food. You got to come back to the city and get more. They can also carry other stuff there, but we'll get to that a little bit later maybe, right? Okay, so here's our guys, right? Our stack. Let's take 1 unit, and I select this here to either disable all or enable all. I'm going to disable everybody and then just select 1 unit. Let's click. And now we have 1 Hyman here, Hyman over here. Where is he going to go? Well, I want to make sure. How many moves does he have? We can go here. And by the way, look at down here, page 1 out of 3. He has, in the world map, that's what we're looking at, 4 moves. In the battle map, he has 4 as well. So 4. Now, if you look here, base move cost 1. So you can go 4. 1, 2, up. There is a forest. Cost 2, so we can go basically here. But we have 4 of them. We can go in all different directions. That might be something you want to do. But I'm going to take the first one and move along the path that we intend to take for our settler, hopefully. Go 1. Okay, so up. Yep. You have to be careful here because remember these things? Outdoor lair and the dungeon lair. If they're inside the potential area of your city, remember 2 hexes out, you can't put a city there. You've got to eliminate them. In this case, we are lucky. There's no, they're outside the range here from us if we put a city here. But there is something else over here. Let's look at this one too. Hills, 400 food, 1 resource, might come in handy. There's also silver here. If we put a mine on here, and a mine would be good anyway because they will exploit the resources, but we will also get 5 trade goods for every level of the mine and for every worker we have as well. So that is a good one to get more money. And I like money for the upkeep cost of expensive units later on in the game. And also for when we're going to make improvements to the land. Building a farm is not free, especially at the end of the game, or at the higher levels, not end of the game, but higher levels of the farm. It would be very expensive. So what if we go one more? We have 3 moves left. We'll go here. Okay, we're still good. There's some mountains over here, and mountains are quite good. 2 here. Not very much food. Not as good as this deciduous forest, but I think, so in the forest you can put a lumber camp. Lumber camps are pretty good. That will increase your resources. But I think the mine, which you can put in a mountain, is even better. So even though it's a 2 there, and then heavy deciduous forest, it's 3. Once you have that mine going full capacity, that might be better. I don't know. I don't know that for sure. Anyway, so if you look here now, if we want to, we could maybe put the city right over here. If we go over one more, he has 1 move left. We could put a city here. There's no lair within range, and that's very, very fortunate. I think that's good. There is some outdoor lairs over here. We're going to be attacking those, and that's for sure. So we could go there. I'm tempted to do it. It seems like an obvious choice, right? Let's disable all of them again and take one of our other Hymen and go up and just take a look. I don't want to go too far, because if the AI sees us, and it's a Conqueror AI, I think they're going to make a beeline to take us out, which, with my limited experience of the game, I probably wouldn't do too well. So, anyway, let's go up here. That takes, going to take 2 out of our 4 move there. There we go. Yep, we have more here. Dungeon layers, it's all kinds of animals. And remember, we can go down here and we can see all the units if we want to. But you don't have to go there. You can actually just right-click there, and you can see what they are, and right-click again, and we can see everything about this arcane wizard. I don't think I want to take him on just yet. But anyway, we have 2 more moves. This is going to take us to 2. Let's go there. And what do we have? We can use the scroll wheel to zoom out. Okay. Quite busy over here. We haven't seen anybody else, which is good. I like that. I don't want to go too far, so maybe just go one time, the first turn out, and then we'll kind of regroup and maybe take on one of these layers. That's the next thing we'll do. But in the meantime, let's take another one of our units here and go down. I think we'll go down here. And I think deciduous forest, heavy, 2. And I think it's the same for, a regular deciduous forest. We'll go down here. And I have 1 movement left, can't go anywhere. Yep, there's more here, but there's nothing special, right? I don't see anything. There's no special resource here. Yeah, I discounted this one over here. By the way, I wasn't thinking this one but was the best. 6 resources, good. It would give us access to the ocean, but, we can't really pass up all this here, right? So we'll leave him there. We can say rest 1 turn, so we don't have to go cycle through him. And then disable everybody and select the last one. Where should he go? Well, I guess maybe up. No, we can go west. Let's go west. Just here to get an eye. Okay, so we're following the coastline here. Okay, not too bad. Not too bad. Okay, so that is fine. We'll rest with him. And here we are. We have our engineer and our settler. So next up would be to move our... I think we're going to move our settler over here. No, over here. 1, 2, 3. He also has 4. 4 movement there. But so he can actually get there in 1 turn. This is 1 turn. He can get there and create a city. But you know what? I'm out of time. I'll come back next time. We'll continue. It'll be a little slow in the beginning, but after that we'll pick up the pace, and we'll see what we can do against all these layers, and then later on the AIs. But come back later, and we'll play more of Deity Empires. Bye, guys.